Hey folks, David Brody here in Washington, D.C. Some analysis now on this new foreign policy coalition that has started to form on both the far left and the woke right. I wrote an article about it today on All Israel News. You can read the entire article there on the site. But wanted to kind of give you a little bit more perspective on this. First of all, we're talking about folks like Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tom Massey, and so many more influencers on the far right, isolationist, woke right, whatever you want to call it, it's all one and the same, who are sounding very much, very similar to Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan, the Senate candidate there who won this past week. Also sounding like Hassan Piker, the influencer, national influencer that helped Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan. And of course, many of the far left folks that we know of that we've come to not love, AOC and Mamdani and all of those folks. So there is a weird, strange bedfellows coalition of the far left and the woke right. And I get into this in the article about the horseshoe theory, right? I mean, there's this political scientists debate it, but overall, it's this idea that, you know, if you've got a horseshoe and you've got the far right, or excuse me, you've got conservatism and liberalism, but eventually, if you get around to the full horseshoe, the far right becomes very simpatico with the far left. It's like it becomes a horseshoe, and that's what we're seeing here when it comes to Israel, especially. You know, it's the anti-Israel, let's be honest, anti-Semitic coalition that is, let's also be honest, gaining steam in Washington. This idea that it's left versus right anymore, or this idea that it's Republicans and Democrats. I mean, sure, on the surface, it's Republicans and Democrats, but it really isn't left versus right anymore. It is a horseshoe theory. It's more a vertical situation. In other words, what the far left and the woke right have in common, besides hating Israel, is the fact that they're both very anti-establishment. And so you put all of that together, and therefore they're going to blame the neocons, and they're going to blame George W. Bush, and they're going to blame, the establishment that's been around for a long time, and saying business as usual must change, which, by the way, is great from a populist perspective if you keep it to just that ideology. But when it comes to foreign policy, especially Israel, that's where anti-Semitism enters the equation, and it becomes a really bad situation. You know, I'm going to do a future article on this, but I wanted to give you a sense of where I'm going with this. What we're seeing right now on the far left is I'm talking about the socialist movement, the Democrat socialist movement here, is very similar to the Tea Party. And of course, I don't mean ideologically, they're obviously totally different, but they have a lot in common actually beyond ideology. And here's what I mean by that. The Tea Party started in 2010. It kind of came out of Obama. It was very anti-Obama, but it was also obviously very patriotic, and it was very anti-establishment. The far left right now, this Democrat socialist stuff we're seeing, is very reminiscent of the Tea Party. It's also anti-establishment, and it's coming out of being very anti-Trump. So you put the two together, and it is similar. Now, obviously, the Tea Party movement was much bigger and broader. I don't think for a second that the far left has any sort of legs as it relates to the actual quantity of people that are believing in that type of philosophy. Having said that, the younger crowd is of deep concern in terms of them buying into this bunk, if you will. So I do see a correlation there. It'll be interesting to watch. Look, ultimately, I don't see Tucker Carlson and Hassan Piker going around the country barnstorming together, though, as I mentioned in the article, they might want to start an anti-Israel, anti-Semitic tour across America. They'd be very good at that, and it would generate a lot of press. Not that I need to give them any ideas. But at the same time, as much as they agree on Israel, they disagree on a lot of other issues surrounding that. So obviously, it's not going to be any sort of unity ticket. But this is a new coalition that has started. And you have a media that's going to amplify the voices on the far left. That's nothing new. And then when it comes to the far right voices, the woke right, they love a good dissenter from the traditional conservative viewpoint, especially the neocon viewpoint. So they love a Tucker Carlson. They love a Marjorie Taylor Greene. They love a Tom Massey because they want to see conservatives split, which indeed could happen. So you have that plus the fact that they love the far left to begin with, and it is a perfect storm for the media to give all of this a rise in oxygen as well. So keep your eye on all of that. David Brody here for All Israel News, reporting from Washington.